This Hall of Fame game edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast is presented by MyBookie.ag. This week only, MyBookie is offering up to $200 in free bets using the promo code SGP200. That's right, up to $200 in free bets with only a one-time rollover requirement. Use SGP200 to play, win, and get paid at MyBookie.ag. We're also brought to you by ESPN Plus. Log on to sportsgamblingpodcast.com and click the ESPN Plus banner to sign up for ESPN Plus. College football, college basketball, MLB soccer, and exclusive UFC fights. You can't be a real fan without ESPN Plus. Welcome everyone to the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green with my partner in picks, Ryan, Real Money Kramer. Kramer, how is Hawaii?
It's beautiful. Haven't been on a boat trip yet, but we're celebrating the new look New York Giants. I'm very excited about it. It's been good. It's been hilarious. Lots of tourist activity. One out of every two cars in the parking lot is some sort of shitty Jeep rental from the rental car company. Lots of white people when we go on the hikes. So, we're invading. We stand with Zuckerberg.
You're an invasive species of the Hawaiian Islands. How much spam have you had?
I've had no spam, Sean. If you would believe it, no spam. They
love spam over there. You got to get a spam subi. Come on, nothing.
I've had some poke. I've had some proper poke, and I've had some time next to a pool. Haven't done a lot.
Yes, your lady friend sent me a photo of you enjoying a daiquiri poolside. So we'll have to toss that up on the Instagram Sports Gambling Podcast if you want to see Ryan enjoying a fruity drink.
Please, that was not the fruitiest drink I had all week. That was a watermelon and lime cocktail. I was just plowing through the lava flows all week. Pina colada, a little strawberry, frozen, delicious. Highly recommend it when you're in a tropical spot. But we're not here to talk about that, Sean.
Ryan. Well, we are here to talk about football because this is officially the first football podcast of the 2019 season. I'm really disappointed. I don't have the NFL theme music to get me jacked up because we're doing this remotely, but it's going on in my head. It's been going on all summer. Training camp is going. My football juices are flowing. I did a tremendous amount of research for this Hall of Fame game for some reason.
No, you didn't.
I did. Including deep dives into some of the local beats. I'm going to dominate this DraftKings lineup that will be given out here later on in the program. But yeah, football's back. Awesome. Speaking of football, real football guy, and that is our boy John Gruden. John Gruden said, there's a quote everywhere on Twitter right now that John Gruden, he weighed in on, he said, this Nate Peterman guy's growing on him.
Oh no. Oh no, he didn't.
Oh,
he's trolling, right?
He is either super self-aware and just a comedic genius or just a fucking maniac. And speaking of, he's gone viral twice in this past week. One for this quote now of Nate Peterman saying how he's growing on him. And then two is the video that we tweeted out of him from training camp in 92 or something, where he's wearing a full on Eagles starter jacket as he discusses routes with Randall Cunningham. It's a video clip and it's insane. He's also wearing a backwards visor, and it's really, you have to watch it. And if you've never been to the East Coast in August, I don't care how insulated it is or not. the idea of putting on a starter jacket while at a training camp in August in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania is one of the craziest things that John Gruden has done. And he's a guy who's signed Richie Incognito. So I'm just counting the days down to when we get to see this maniac on Hard Knocks.
Just to recap, Sean, we're saying John Gruden is possibly a psycho. Is this new? Is this new news? Because this is going to be great. I can't wait to see behind the curtain. We've already touched on it. AB shows up, as he said in that video where he showed up to camp in a hot air balloon, because that's what Napa Valley is all about. Nothing says Oakland Raiders like showing up to training camp in a hot air balloon. First of all, second of all, there's a lot of personality in that locker room, Sean. I don't know if AB's one to wear a starter jacket in the summertime. So him and John Gruden are already not seeing eye to eye.
That and speaking of characters, wild men. We last episode was our awesome interview with the one, the only Lenny Dykstra. If you guys missed that for some reason, which I don't know how you could have missed that, it's been all over our feed. Plugging a bunch of great clips. So much good stuff to unpack there with Nails. Got some great feedback from the listeners. This is from @Jamie Hov. He writes in, on a road trip with my family, my turn to pick an album, and this podcast magically appears in my library like a cold deer park in the desert. Awesome interview. My 4-year-old is really into baseball, so hopefully the tips from Lenny's magical 93 season resonated. I don't know if that's the kind of interview you want to play for a 4-year-old, because Nails doesn't hold back.
Yeah, he doesn't. You might say we were fans and now we're friends, Sean.
It was good to get to talk to Lenny on air, talked with him a bunch off air, and getting the whole interview situation figured out. And he was asking me, he's like, what's the language? Do I got to keep it PG or can I go for it? If you listen to the interview, he certainly went for it. And I said, dude, go for it. We don't have any language restrictions. After all, the motto of our podcast is let it ride. And he said, great slogan. So we're on to something, Ryan. But yeah, if you missed the Lenny Dykstra interview, a must listen, all time, super interesting guy. The stories alone, when he's talking about, I love how he teed up the umpire story. If you missed it, the umpire story where he's talking about how he starts the umpire story by going, in 1993, I decided I had to work smarter, not harder. And that was him describing hiring private investigators to get dirt on umpires that he would casually drop while in the batter's box for a more favorable strike zone. That's next level, Lenny. Next level Dykstra, and Sean, that's why he was an amazing guest.
Real quick, we do have to apologize to the fans. We will be having Lenny back on because we forgot to ask him how the slot was. So we have more to talk to Lenny about.
Yes, colossal error on my part. Me, Ryan, really missed out on that. But yeah, lots of great feedback. Appreciate it. And hey, love the love on Twitter, but why not take it up a notch and drop that review in the iTunes? That really gets our motors going. So yeah, give us a review on the iTunes as you rate, review, subscribe, the whole thing. Before we start breaking down the Hall of Fame game and some preseason betting trends, reminder, we got a ton of content on the website right now. I know you're thinking this is kind of the dead time, but you would be wrong. We got DraftKings picks for the 2019 Wyndham Championship, UFC Newark, got some picks, odds, best bets. Colby Dant, the college experience, celebrating their 100th episode, breaking down the AAC preview for 2019. Got some fantasy baseball week 19 risers and fallers. Christian Pina's daily MLB picks. What else? Oh yeah, and of course we're doing more how-tos. So if you're new to sports betting, just figuring out some gambling stuff, make sure you check out the how-to category over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. What is the money line? Breaking down the money line, how to bet it, that whole thing. We got how to bet on horses as well. how to bet on sports using Bitcoin, which we get a lot of questions on that. So check all that information out. And while we're talking about Bitcoin, transitions perfectly to our presenting sponsor, MyBookie.ag. Ryan, you already know MyBookie.ag, home of the $100 NFL Super Contest. If you're doing a Super Contest, $100 entry. You don't have to hire a proxy, nothing like that. And the cool thing is that they're giving all the prize money back with $100,000 guaranteed to a first place. So that's pretty awesome. Make sure you sign up for that. And since we're celebrating football, I said to my bookie, I said, come on, guys. I have some special listeners. These guys are diehards. They're junkies. They're going to be tuning in. They're going to be wanting something special to kick off the NFL betting season with the Hall of Fame game. So they threw us a bone. Now, normally when you enter SGP 50, you get a 50% deposit bonus, but there's some rollover requirements for that. This week only, if you make your first deposit at MyBookie, you get up to $200 in free bets. That's right. And it's only a 1x rollover requirement. And you can get up to $200 in free bets. Pretty easy formula there. All you got to do, use that promo code SGP200. Up from 50, SGP200. Play, win, and get paid over at MyBookie.ag.
Sean,
Kramer.
I already got my first official game wager placed over at MyBookie.ag for the Hall of Fame game coming up.
What'd you do, Ryan?
Well, I know. I'm teasing ahead, but we'll talk about it later. Or should we just talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about it now.
Well, what do we always fire? What's the number one thing? Fire and forget week 1 of the NFL preseason, which of course the Hall of Fame game is included in. Gotta fire on those unders. Defense ahead of offense.
It's a very simple formula, and the numbers back it up. They've made the totals as low as they can possibly make them, and they're still going under 30.3 points per game in the past 7 games. And right now over at MyBookie.ag, the total's still sitting at 34. The total's only gone over 34 twice in the past 7 seasons. And if you're new to preseason betting, especially the Hall of Fame game, Vic Fangio, coach for the Broncos, said most of the starters won't play. So again, that's another great reason. Second team offense against second team defense. Second defense, they're going to be light years ahead. And if there are any starters that are going to play, it probably will be on the defensive side of the ball for a little bit. Let the big uglies go at it for a bit. The spread right now, and this is insane. You can get 3 points by betting the Atlanta Falcons +3, -105, +135 on the money line. Lock that dog up for me as well. You just got to go dogs and under this first week. Just blindly play it. It'll pay off. The crazy thing about this game was that there was line movement. The game opened up a pick. And the Sharps were steaming the Broncos, and now it's up to Falcons +3. That's insane.
Is it because of the quarterback situation? I would imagine it's got something to do with that. Maybe we're not super stoked to see Matt Schaub get some reps in there for Atlanta. I don't know. Sean, I noticed earlier when you sent me a question, you said, should we do a DraftKings lineup? And my response was, why the fuck wouldn't we? So of course we both probably spent way too much time looking into these preseason. I do enjoy. Remind me, Sean, was it like this last year? Everyone's the same price.
Yep. Yeah. So if you're hopping on the DraftKings lineup, everyone's the same price. The skill really is figuring out who's going to play, how much they're going to play. I found what I've been doing is, first off, eliminate all the starters, and then just go skill position by skill position, entering in the players' names, and then seeing what comes up. Because the real nuggets, it's tough to find, because even DraftKings, they're usually pretty good about plugging in like the player info or whatever the latest news from RotoWire, but some of these guys, the stuff's not really appearing on RotoWire because they're not starters or impact players traditionally. However, if you enter their name into Google and then hit that news tab, you can see like it'll search and you'll pull up all the different training camp notes, and you can see because the local guys will be reporting like, oh, he's really been turning heads, getting a lot of first team reps. Oh, it's going to be expect to see a lot of playing time. So it takes a little bit of work, a little bit of research. I know our buddy Chris Giordani, if I pronounce his last name right, but DFS dominating writer for the Sports Gambling Podcast. He's going to be putting out a Hall of Fame game post as well for some DFS picks. And so, yeah, that's really for me, that was the way to attack it. Before we give out our lineups here, a couple things to note. I do think now they're doing the, I forget the name of the contest, but whatever their big contest is, first place gets $20,000. The entries are only $5. So, I'm going to be playing more than one lineup.
Sean, it's the NFL 100K enshrinement ceremony contest.
I think to me, the move is because we both said we both like the under, and obviously we like the dog as well. But I think there's definitely a lineup where you play both defenses and you play the Broncos. As much as I'm on the Falcons +3, I think I'm going to have a separate lineup with the Broncos defense as a captain as well. But for the sake of making it more interesting, I put together a lineup that was just skill position guys.
Oh, wait a second, John, really? Because the first thing I did was put both defenses in my lineup.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just saying I'm going to play two separate lineups, one with both defenses, but for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to give out one with with all skill guys. So, all right, Kramer.
But real quick, like you did watch that video I posted where Drew Lock threw the interception 5 feet out of bounds.
Yeah,
like I don't mind starting, and I put the Falcons in my captain's chair. That's what I did. I put the Falcons defense in the captain's chair. I think when I see things like Kevin Hogan to start, Rippin and Lock to follow, I see interceptions. I see pick sixes. I see sacks. We like the defenses. We don't think there's going to be a lot of offensive touchdowns. So that leads kicker or defense. I went with the defense here. I think just more opportunity.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that play. I started out with give me this guy, former Philadelphia Eagle, Kenjon Barner.
Ooh.
He's been dominating camp. They've been noting his explosiveness, and this is a guy that's perfect for a Hall of Fame game DFS lineup because he's a guy that's a veteran, a guy who's really going to play super hard for a spot, a guy who has some athleticism, which that's how you would overcome the kind of defense being ahead of the offense is some super athletic, fast guys, maybe break a play, maybe bust it open. I could see them getting involved in the passing game. But yeah, Kenjon Barner, according to my training camp notes, has really been turning some heads, and they're not going to play any of the guys or any of their running backs like, any of their starters or guys that's actually going to see time. There's, Devonta Freeman, Ito Smith. I'd be surprised if he gets any looks. So I really like the Kenjon Barner play in the captain's chair.
Sean, I'm going back to the well. Number 2, give me the Broncos defense, because guess what? Everything I said about the Falcons defense, same thing with the Broncos defense. I just think there's going to be plenty of opportunity. It's the first preseason game. There's going to be rust. We like we said. It'd be surprising to me if this game got even into the 30s in score. So, and one thing to note with the kickers, it won't be the same kicker going out there, which is one of the reasons that you're not going to see me selecting a kicker. I don't want to have to choose which one is going to be the one they throw in for the certain opportunity. So I'm sticking. I guess this is probably square, but I'm going double defense. Give me the Broncos defense.
Now, are you sure about that, Ryan? Because I'm looking at a note here that says, following the release of Taylor Bertolet, McManus is now the only place kicker on the Broncos roster.
Oh. Well, Sean, I am in Hawaii, so I'm not keeping super close tabs on the Broncos kicking situation other than the video where Drew Lock throws that interception out of bounds trying to one-up Blake Bortles. He throws it to Brandon McManus, who promptly takes it to the house. One thing to note from that video, Sean, Emmanuel Sanders looks very healthy chasing him down the sideline. So those scared of Emmanuel Sanders just grabbed him in the 9th round of a best ball league over at the FFPC, Sean. So I think I'm getting more and more certain. And my Bronco, anyway, we're getting off a little bit, but second player is also going to be a defense.
Right. I don't think anyone's going to complain about a sidebar into fantasy football talk during this Hall of Fame game DFS discussion. Real quick on the best ball. If you're doing a best ball and you don't have Deshaun Jackson in your best ball lineup, I don't know what you're thinking, because everything coming out of Eagles camp is just how good this deep ball connection is with Deshaun Jackson. And I just don't see how that guy doesn't have a couple huge games, especially week 1 against his former team, the Redskins.
Sidebar to the sidebar. You just mentioned Carson Wentz. Christian Pina, if you're listening to this, it may not be released yet, but on this week's episode of Inside Vegas, Christian Pina has, I don't have his name in front of me, but I'm going to pull it up because he needs to shout. Fabian Somner, who is an awesome NFL handicapper, real analytical guy. So I like that shit, Sean. Lots of numbers. But he also has a thick bad guy in Die Hard German accent. And he said Carson Wentz in this episode of the podcast, which, of course, Sean, working through my vacation, producing shows for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network.
Hall of Fame employee.
But we are going to have a very awesome German accented Carson Wentz drop for the 2019 season. So long way to get there.
Hopefully it's positive. I'll have to listen to the podcast. I got it queued up.
It's very positive, Sean. Awesome. Your number 2 guy.
My number 2 guy is Brandon McManus. You saw his playmaking ability in that clip. I think he can drop some bombs. Denver kickers are always good. Normally it's because of the elevation, but he's the only place kicker on the roster. Field goal central. It's an easy way to guarantee yourself some points. Who's your number 3, Kramer?
So this is the part where it gets really interesting, because there's probably some value in taking a quarterback just because of the volume. I do think they have to give, Drew Lock has to be given some snaps, right? This is John Elway's 5th guy. He wants to see what his 5th guy can do.
And honestly, again, this was going to be one of my notes. I had him in here for a little bit, and then I took him out to replace him with Brandon McManus. Drew Lock seems to be the guy that I would say is going to get the bulk of the snaps. They're calling this game a real sink or swim opportunity, according to the beat writers, for Drew Lock. So expect him to get the majority of the snaps from the Broncos. I haven't been able to see as much as far as the Falcons, how they're going to split up their snap count, but Drew Lock, I think, is going to play the 2nd and 3rd quarter, if I had to predict.
Okay. Am I up, Sean?
What? Wait. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Who's your 3rd guy?
That Drew Lock was my 3rd guy.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, we're going quarterback here. We're going value proposition, all players, same dollars. So I'm obviously gonna, if you can pick the right quarterback for each team, I think there's implicit value in doing that. So I'm going to take a stab. I think Drew Lock gets, and I think to win this, I think I want to see him play closer to 2 quarters than 1 quarter. So Drew Lock for my 3rd spot.
This man, he's been taking advantage of extra practice with Julio Jones being out. He's been getting extra reps. And that man is Russell Gage. He's been getting his first team reps and a nice share of targets in practice. I think the Falcons want to see what they got with Gage. And he's a guy who, caught 6 balls last season. So that puts him ahead of some other guys. And I think they really want to give him a good look. And if you you see, he's been again reading those like Atlanta Falcons practice notes. He's definitely been popping up a bunch. So yeah, give me Russell Gage at 7,600. Oh, I guess we don't need to say the price.
It's the same for everyone, Sean. For my fourth guy, I'm going back to the quarterback. Well, the Falcons, it appears at least by DraftKings roster, they have 3 key guys on the roster. Matt Ryan, we don't think Matt Ryan's going to see a ton of time here. Matt Ryan's
not going to play.
I got to imagine you know what Matt Schaub is at this point. He may start, but the guy I'm interested in is 23-year-old undrafted free agent out of the wannabe private school pussies out of Virginia, Kurt. And funny enough, there's 2 UVA grads on this roster. I don't know why I like the Falcons this year. 23-year-old. I guess he's 24 now. He turned 24 on July 17th. Kurt Benkert. He was on the squad last year, so he at least is not a new guy. Knows the offense. Got to imagine he's going to get some run here, right?
Yeah, I mean that definitely makes sense. So
I'm throwing another quarterback in there again. I think if you're going to play volume, get the guy who's having the ball snapped into his hands every down. We'll see what kind of. Hopefully, he doesn't fuck up too much. I guess the thing with these quarterbacks is you're hoping. I'm kind of hedging in a way, Sean, because I'm playing the defense. I'm playing the quarterbacks. You're up. Who's your fourth guy?
Okay, my fourth guy. I keep.
You told me you did all this research, Sean.
I did, Ryan, and I was just going back and forth in my head about swapping Locke and McManus, whether I made the right call. But this guy, I know I made the right call, and that is Khalfani Muhammad of the Denver Broncos. He's a speedster. He reached the semifinals in the inaugural NFL Speed Challenge, the 40 yards of gold race. And he's been turning heads. The thing is, he's basically their number 4 back right now. But let me see what I got a note here on my boy Muhammad. Though he faces an uphill battle to make the roster, Muhammad has impressed in camp. Cecil Lammy of 104.3 The Fan reports that's the kind of guy you want in a game like this. A guy who's just speed can kill. It can beat the scheme advantage that the defense inherently has. And if you're the Broncos, I mean, look at their depth chart. Is there really anyone? I mean, Royce Freeman, Devontae Booker, and of course my man Philip Lindsay. Like, what you got with those guys. Let's see what Muhammad can do. So I think he's going to get a nice look here from the Broncos.
Sean.
Yes.
One of the guys I partner with through the trials and tribulation of the season-long fantasy football league is a Broncos fan, lives in Colorado, has his ear to the beat. And you know what he tells me? He tells me the starting tight end right now that everyone's talking about, it's not Noah Fant. It's not Jake Butt coming off the injury. A lot of hype coming out of Michigan. The guy lighting it up right now in camp is Troy Fumagalli. Not sure if I got that right. Number 84 on your roster sheet, tight end for the Denver Broncos. I think he's the starting guy. I still think he's going to get some reps here because he's a young guy. So I'm going to throw him in the roster. Again, Troy Fumagalli. I don't know, Sean. I'm definitely getting that wrong, but I'm throwing him in the roster.
Okay.
Going deep.
And I went tight end as well. Here's another note: with few starters to play Thursday, the game could be a showcase for young tight ends Noah Fant, Troy Fumagalli, Austin Fort, and Morrill Stevens, none of whom have played a preseason snap. So if you're saying I couldn't find anything that differentiates between Noah and Troy as far as who's doing better, but if you're saying Troy's the guy, I'll switch. You know what? I'm going to stick with my guy Noah Fant. We'll see. I'll ride the Noah Fant train. I think him and Locke have a connection. So yeah, give me Noah Fant. I'll stick with it, but the Troy one could be the way to go, or maybe you play both. Honestly, who's your final guy, Kramer?
Well, I wanted to get some action over there on the Atlanta Falcons, and I don't have a running back yet. So what I did was I scoured the internet, and I don't know. Number 23, Brian Hill, seems to have the profile of a guy who could get some preseason work. He definitely had some usage last year. He's a little bit higher up on the depth chart. I don't know if that's good or bad for his situation in the preseason. He's not. He's below the Ito Smith line though, and I think that could lead to him getting some hefty work in this game. So I'm going Brian Hill for like you said, Sean, 7,600.
Well, I was in a similar position. I wanted to have a Falcons running back, another one actually, but I went with the rookie Marcus Green. He's a receiver running back combo, and it looks like he's going to be more the running back. And they're saying he's kind of a strong competitor and early favorite. Marcus Green, he's got some versatility. They're hyping up his raw speed combined with his ability in the return game. Hey, maybe they don't have the punt return defense. Maybe he breaks one. This is the kind of guy you want to keep your eye on in a game like this. So yeah, give me Marcus Green rounding out the DFS lineup.
Sean, very exciting news. I entered this contest using only crowns, so freebie for me.
Wow,
how about awesome. That? Other thing I learned, Sean. Fascinating thing I learned about the great state of Hawaii. You cannot play DFS here. So I made sure to get this lineup in before I entered the great state of Hawaii.
Oh, well, that is a,
what the fuck's wrong with you, Hawaii? Come on. You guys are super chill about everything else.
Yeah. Why would they care of all the things to care about in Hawaii? Guys playing DraftKings. That's a problem.
It seems odd. Although, Sean, I will tell, if I could shout one thing about if you are planning a trip to Hawaii, Sean, we went on a helicopter tour. We're on the island of Kauai. We did a helicopter tour of the Nepali coast, and we did it in a helicopter with no doors. One of the coolest fucking things I've ever done in my life. Highly recommend.
Really?
Oh, he would take these
straight out of Jurassic Park.
Straight out of Jurassic Park, and he would do these bank turns like over the top of a mountain, and it's just like 2,000 feet straight down. He would just drop in. It was pretty. And the door, you have no doors. Did I mention the part where there's no doors on the helicopter? So it's fucking sweet. Anyway, that was my boat trip, Sean. Giants are going to be fired up this year.
Cue the boat trip music, Kramer.
Can I give another shout out? One more quick free plug.
What is this like 106 in Park? Sure.
Well, let me be like, the steakhouse here down at the Hyatt is great. If they wanted to, no, that's a Sean. No, I've been reading a lot of the Warren Sharp preview. Got it. Big shout out. Big shout out. When are we doing the divisional preview, Sean?
Ryan, next week starts our division preview when you finally get your lazy ass back from Hawaii.
Oh,
get your head where it needs to be focused. And that is the National Football League. Couple other preseason betting trends. Our boy Walter Football, who again, awesome site. And what I love about the Walter Football site is like the dude doesn't fuck around with graphics. It's just straight data, and it's very easy to read, very easy to navigate. He's got like preseason betting trends, or I don't know if it's betting trends, but he's listed coaches, their preseason win-loss record, which is worth investigating when you're breaking these games down. If you're a guy who's actually going to try and pick the game instead of just taking the starters, or sorry, the dogs. John Gruden, 33-17 in preseason football, and this team is on Hard Knocks. I think I could see Gruden trying really hard to win some of these games for the Raiders. Another guy that jumps out as far as someone to possibly bet on in the NFL preseason, that's John Harbaugh, 33-12 historically for the NFL preseason.
The Gruden trend is totally one I'm going to be bet. Of course we're betting on him. He doesn't realize that the games don't count. He's also, Sean, when was the last time he coached a real game? We saw in Hard Knocks, he's been making that playbook. He just had no one to give it to. He finally has someone to give it to. The Raiders are actually, I think, if you can even find alternative lines where you're laying more points to the Raiders, I might encourage you to. John Gruden is going to go so hard to win that first game back. What are the odds they dump the Gatorade on him?
Very high, very high. Oh, man, I'm getting fired up. Football is here. Just so jacked up. All right. What else to hit on? Right. I think we covered it all. Any other nuggets you want to throw out there?
Yeah. I mean, just do your homework. I'm getting so excited. I have my Football Outsiders. I have my Warren Sharp. I'm a pig in shit right now. and you know what, Sean? Most importantly, the chip just continues to grow on Daniel Jones.
Oh yeah, shoulders. Give it to us. They've gotten distracted, I think, making fun of the Giants receiver situation. You tried to brush by it at the top of the program, but it's worth revisiting. Coleman out for the season. Sterling Shepard, broken thumb. Golden Tate, who was hilarious because he was listed as, I read a blog, one of the people to benefit from the Sterling Shepard injury. He is now out for a 4-game drug suspension, which it makes sense. Eagles don't put up with that kind of nonsense. Got to move on from a low life like Golden Tate.
Isn't it amazing? A man is just trying to have a child with his wife. Takes some fertility medication. He gets suspended. He gets popped 4 games. No tolerance for drugs. I'm all for that.
He's got low T.
I'm all for that, Sean. I'm not arguing that Golden Tate shouldn't be suspended, but how did Tyreek Hill get by without being suspended? I mean, objectively, it looks ridiculous. It's just hilarious.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really the NFL is. They're just pulling names out of a hat with these suspensions. It's even if you're like Roger Goodell sucks and he's evil, even if you have that stance, even that it doesn't make sense because the Seattle Seahawks guy got suspended for 6 games and it was a similar situation. Domestic violence, didn't get arrested, didn't get charged. How does that happen? And then Tyreek Hill completely gets off. Even if he was secretly pro domestic violence and was like this evil guy who was like, I like beating guys when they rough up their wives or children. But it doesn't, even that logic that you try to apply doesn't make sense. Like what? He's only for players. He's against players beating their wives, but not their infant children. His logic makes no sense. There is no logic, but again, they're lucky it's the National Football League and I'm going to love them regardless. Otherwise they would be in serious trouble.
Yeah.
What Ryan,
I just wanted to point out though that the chip is getting bigger. And you mentioned that Sterling Shepard broke his thumb without mentioning that it was the incredible zip on an Eli Manning fastball that did it. So.
Oh man, there's a great video. I should tweet it out at Gambling Podcast of them following Eli Manning to his first day at training camp. It reminds you of like if you have a kid sending him off to the first day of school. He's got his like book bag. He's got his goofy new school outfit on. Oh, just such a huge fucking dork that is Eli Manning. Ryan, before I let you go and return to your vacation lifestyle, I tweeted out a poll question, which I think is a pretty interesting poll question because we haven't even hit on it. Zeke not at training camp; he's in Cabo, possibly. I love how he says he's going to Cabo just to train. But it's like, oh, wait, that also happens to be a spring break destination. The same guy who was at the Electric Daisy Festival in Las Vegas. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Zeke likes him some ecstasy. And that's possibly why he's ending up at Cabo. You can, if you want to do training, go to like Colorado Springs and get some high elevation stuff going. You don't need to go to Cabo. Is known for a lot of things, not known for their off-season training program. If you're going to a city to train for the NFL, I would imagine you go where you don't have to consider whether or not you can drink the water. Now that being aside, our buddy Zeke, he's trying to get paid. Dak is in line to get paid because Carson Wentz got paid. It seems like Goff's going to get his check. And then on the sideline, Amari Cooper is also angling to get paid. What happens in Dallas? Who gets paid? Do all 3 get paid? It seems to me like that's physically impossible.
I mean, obviously this isn't the Cowboys if you try to objectively look at this Cowboys team, it's like, wow, they could be really good this year. But of course, like we talked about all off season, it's not going to happen. So I don't know. It's preseason, Sean.
Well, I think the more I see, the more I think Zeke is not going to be in uniform week 1 against the Giants.
And that's fine with me.
I think that plus 7.5, in spite of the fact that the Giants have no one to throw to, is kind of tempting.
Well, I mean, you say the Giants have no one to throw to, but they still have Saquon Barkley. They still have Evan Ingram. They still have a number of unheralded players just chomping at the bit. Also have giant chips on their shoulder. The defense is going to be sneaky good this year, Sean. I'm all in. I'm full. I'm not going to do anything crazy and say they're going to win the division, but this just wait. This team, the Redskins are horrible. They're hot garbage. The Cowboys might be hot garbage. You never know, Sean.
Well, and then the Redskins just signed a new left tackle with the understanding that Trent Williams is not going to be playing for the Redskins this season. And that's a tough place to start your season. Dwayne Haskins most likely will be the starter week 1 on the road in Philadelphia, in front of that rabid fan base. Without Trent Williams, tough spot for the kid.
Well, and do you know who else will probably be starting on that line, whether it's at right tackle or left tackle?
Who's that?
Eric Flowers.
That's right.
So wow. I don't know. This Redskins, it's hard to not see a path that leads to Gruden. Like, which Gruden gets fired first? Well, we think John's going to have.
That's a good poll question.
I think it's so easily. Jay Gruden would have to be like Jay Gruden's a minus 400 favorite there. So,
yeah. All right. I'll tweet out that poll question at Gambling Podcast. We'll make Jay Gruden minus 400 and John Gruden. Well, because you do have the Davises, so they can make crazy decisions. Maybe it's just such a disaster they clean slate before they move to Las Vegas. Now there's a shitload of guaranteed money coming his way, so it's highly unlikely. But I'll say Jay Gruden minus 400, John Gruden plus 300.
Okay.
All right. That sounds fun. Do we hit on everything we had to hit on? I think we did. Rate, review, share on iTunes. Come on. We got you nails. We got you Mike Leach. What more do you want? Listeners, SGP Nation, our new merch store will be dropping in August. Got some slick new gear. It's all new gear, whole new experience. It's pretty awesome. Division previews start soon. And what more do we need to say? Football is upon us this week. You can get your first NFL bet in over at mybookie.ag. Use that promo code SGP200 for the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm Sean, stacking the money green, and he is Ryan.
Sterling Shepard is practicing.
Kramer, let it ride.